Hi there, thank you for joining me on Ferncrafts. I'm Christine and I welcome you to my channel. I want to say a very big thank you to all of my subscribers as well as my viewers over the last few weeks. You've been so nice and I've really enjoyed reading all of your comments. Thank you for all the nice and kind words you've had for me. Okay, so today's video is different. I have my camera set up onto the tripod, and different in the sense this is a repotting video, because this Brassavola is in dire need of a repotting. As you would have seen in my last video, I was showing it off, that the medium is very broken down. It's dark, and that just means that it's starting to break down or has been breaking down, and it's time for a repot. Also, I'm just looking to see that there are no root tips, because I have to be careful when I'm removing the orchid out of the pot. There are some dead roots you can see there, and those will have to be cleaned up as well. I got it as a seedling size maybe, and it only had the 3 pseudobulbs, so now it has grown, and I've literally had it in this cup. For those who've seen my last video, you would have heard me say a little bit about that. But the humidity has really helped, and it is a orchid that loves its high humidity. And so let's just get started. I'm gonna get rid of this cup. It served me well, but now it's done. I have here just one of those disposable containers. Take out the label. It's always a very good idea to disinfect the label as well. Oh, look at that. It just came very easily out of the pot. And you can see some nice roots there, and there are root tips. You see, that's what I meant. Like, can you see that there? If it could focus there, and you can see some root tips, which is nice. So it is in its growth mode. I'm gonna clean up this pot. I will sterilize it, and I would be able to reuse it for another orchid. Now I'm going to slowly remove all of this medium, and it's falling out pretty easily, which is a good thing. And they've used mostly bark with a little bit of perlite, and it's a very fine bark mix, which would have been the ideal mix for seedling. Okay. So as you can see, it's mostly off, and whatever else will come off with washing will be safe enough to take off. Anything else that's clinging on, I'm just going to leave on, because I don't want to break the roots in the process of pulling the tiny bark pieces off. Okay, so now I'm going to give this orchid a good wash under running water. And you want to make sure that the water is not too hot or too cold. So basically, you know, tepid water. And then I am going to spray it with hydrogen peroxide. I have a 3% solution. All of this is going in the garbage. Okay, so now I'm going to cut away the dead material on the roots without causing too much damage to any live or viable roots. Before you start, always sterilize your working tools. I have a pair of scissors here, and I use rubbing alcohol. So you have to be careful sometimes. Let me show you that with the roots, sometimes what happens is it branches. So this part of the root is dead. However, there is a viable portion right down here from which there are new roots coming. So you got to be careful how far down you want to cut. I don't want to go too far down and cut off a good part of the root, which will then open it up for infection. So now I have cleaned it up, cut away everything, and it's ready for its repot. So given the label a good wash as well. And just to tell you that I have tried different methods with brassavolas just until I could understand how they grow, and these clay pebbles seem to work very well as long as I can provide some humidity. So I have some water at the bottom of this reservoir, and the clay pellets wick up the water and give it just enough moisture without drowning it. I found that if I had tried this one originally, I had put it into sphagnum moss, and it was not doing very well at all because I think it was just too wet too long. Brassavolas like to have a wet and dry period, just like cattleyas. So a few days wet and then a little drying time in between before it's wet again. So they like the high humidity, they like the moisture, but not to be soaking wet or in wet medium for too long. So that didn't work, and so this now I'm trying with the water culture, and I've had it here for about 2 or 3 weeks, and you can see that there's one good root there and a new pseudobulb that's formed. So it is working, but I will first try out this orchid transplanted or repotted and see how that goes, and then this will get the same treatment as well. So I have the other 2 brassavolas that I have just to show you what's happening with those. So I got myself a pot that's slightly bigger. It is quite bigger actually. It's a whole inch bigger than the original pot, but this is with the hope that it will grow and fill this pot. And like I said, the medium that I'm using are these clay pellets that I have enjoyed using for a lot of my orchids recently. I've had a bag from IKEA and I've used it, and towards the end of the bag, actually towards the middle of the bag, the pellets that were left are the smaller ones. So you'll see that there are some uneven ones because this is just the last of it in the bag, and I'm going to try and use as much as I can, or all of it if I could. And basically just drop in a layer, and it has some roots, but you don't want it sitting right at the bottom because I'm gonna let this sit into a container with some water, so I don't want the roots touching it. If the roots choose to go down into the water, then that'll be fine, but if I dunk it into the water, they won't like that. So there, I've filled it about 1/4 of the way up, putting my orchid in, and these root tips are dead too. I'm just going to take them off. Okay, there. And I'm leaving them in there to sit. I hope you can see that. And then basically, pick it up, dropping these pebbles around. So because they are round and they fill up nicely, but they also allow for good airflow between the roots. So it's not being packed in. At the same time, they hold the orchid in place. Well, most of the time. I have found that the ones without the roots, it's a little tricky to get them to sit in. Okay, I might have just enough. That's good. And ideally, I would have liked to use a clear container just to see the progress of this orchid, but I don't have one in this size, so I'm just using what I have. And there you go. And I'm giving the label a good wash. Don't forget to put in the label. There's my Brassavola repotted, and just to let you know that as far as the light levels, they like highlight like Cattleya, but if you start seeing that your orchid has a slight tinge of red, you might want to draw the orchid back a little more into the shade, but not fully submerge it in the shade. They also used highly for hybrids, so you'll find lots of hybrids that have Brassavola as their parent. This one I have yet to see. It is also a hybrid, and the leaves are thick. They are these spiky looking leaves, and they are quite hardy, so they will tolerate a wide range of conditions. Like in the winter time, they can go down a few degrees Celsius, and in the summertime they can take a little more heat, which makes them ideal orchids for beginners, because they're not too fussy, and you don't have to give them too much attention. You have to make sure that they have the basic and they are good to go. And as for semi-water culture, I've already shown you that it works very well with semi-water culture, and that is what I'm trying here. And fertilizing, I usually do a weekly solution, and that seems to work well. So that's what I will be doing with these orchids as well. So I will keep you posted on how they do. I will do regular updates, and for those of you who haven't done so already, do subscribe. You'll be the first to know when I upload a video. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments down below. Thanks again, and until next time, enjoy your orchids. Bye-bye.